You rise up in the morning beneath the stars so bright. Pull your hat down, make sure your cinch is tight. Horses kinda snuffy, cold chill up your spine. You'll get your ass moving, son, we're burning daylight.
Howdy there, I'm Matt McKinley and we're burning daylight.
In the saddle till the job's done right.
Welcome to Burning Daylight, the only podcast for the working cowboy. Well, howdy there, daylight burners. Happy Friday, Thursday night if you're watching live. Thanks to all the Patreon people that do subscribe. Patreon.com/burning daylight if you'd like to partake in the live stream madness. Anyhow, we got Zach Sargent back on the show. And we had a little snafu between between now and our last talk. We're setting up this cowboy debate, and it will happen. I promise. This debate series is going to happen one way or the other. But as a lot of things in life, you think you have a great idea, and then you try to put it into practice, and it's a little harder than you think. And I'll speak for myself here, but and then Zach can kind of tell us his side of the deal. But when it came to the buckaroo side of things, I talked to some like true blue, well-respected, top hand type of California, Great Basin type of buckaroos, and asked if they maybe wanted to defend that position that the buckaroo versus cowpuncher great debate. And overwhelmingly, the response was like, well, I like my style better than theirs, but I know some really good hands that are a lot better hands than some of the buckaroos that I've worked with from Texas and Arizona, New Mexico, Oklahoma, that never dallied a day in their life till they came out to our country, and then they learned how to dally. And essentially, they said, I don't know if ours is the best way to do things, but it's the best way to do things from where we're at.
Yeah, I had some similar issues. I reached out to some of the, real deal kind of cowpuncher type guys, not the social media type guys. Guys well respected and good at their craft. None of them were super interested. They're happy to discuss why they do something.
Yeah.
Why we tie off, or, why we like a swell fork or whatever. What they weren't willing to do was put down the California style of it for the same reason. They said, well, I worked with a lot of guys that come out of, Idaho or Oregon or Nevada or any of that country, and said, boy, they were sure good help and friends. And I would never down talk the way they do it because they made good hands with their style, So I was having similar issues of guys, not that they were unwilling to discuss why they do it their way, but they have no willingness to bad talk or put down a different style of doing something.
Yeah. And I tried to explain on my end too that, like, hey, we're not putting them down. It's just a debate. You're defending your position. They're like, well, I'll defend my position. But essentially what it would come down to is two guys. It would essentially become a bull session and not a debate.
Exactly. Yeah, it would be, yeah, y'all do it this way and we do it this way and everyone gets along and no need to be mad about it. And that doesn't, that's not what we're shooting for necessarily.
Yeah, it turns into a debate where you end up swapping stories because you got to explain why you do things your way, and that's the reason the Burning Daylight bull session came about.
Yeah,
is because I like that shit. But also, I want to see guys defend their points and and it could be for a fun topic, a serious topic, whatever. I want to see people own their argument and fucking back it up. You know, like we that's one thing I think that is really severely lacking in today's society is people just throw out shit and walk away. And then instead of like defending their argument, that they'll they'll call you a racist or they'll call you a retard or whatever. You know, it just immediately goes to just like, no, you're an idiot. And
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 I have the
like,
same belief. Me and my wife had this talk not too long ago about opinions. And I said, everyone is entitled to an opinion, but you also have to defend your opinions. I mean,
mhm.
I hate when people are like, well, you're entitled to your opinion. It's like, well, you are, but you also have to defend it because is it a valid opinion? Is it stupid? You know what I mean? Like, I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
why you
No,
come
I respect I respect your right to have your opinion, but I don't necessarily respect your opinion.
exactly. That's the best way to put it. Yeah. And opinions are like anything else. If they don't stand up to peer review, you probably ought to rethink them. You know what I mean? It's like, well,
Yeah.
if I have this opinion, and if someone can easily blow holes in that opinion, then I should probably go back to the drawing board with it. And that's the value of debate and conversation is making everybody rethink, their line of thinking.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. And I think maybe we were so I had a little bout of autism this week where I just
Nice.
I listened to this song on loop, you know, and I have my regular like load of podcasts I listen to. I try to, you know, so I can stay as up to date on current events as possible. And but in the meantime, like the world's a lot. You know, there's a lot of shit going on, and a lot of it's real fucking heavy, and you need to unplug.
Yeah.
And the worst part of it is like there's no football going on right now, so
Right. Yeah, I don't give a shit about baseball, so like that doesn't help me.
well, the Rockies are probably already out of it, and if they're not, they're gonna be
Right.
real soon.
We'll
So
wait.
I got,
Yeah.
and so I just like, man, music's where it's at, comedy and music, and
Yeah. I do a
I,
lot of your mom's house and music for the most part.
there you go,
Yeah.
and yeah, like I'm Legion of Skanks. I'm you know, even Rogan has been too heavy here lately. I'm like, man, get some fucking comedians on, like
Yeah.
some dumb comedians
I
too.
agree. Like run Theo Vaughn on there or Tom Segura or somebody because
Yeah,
like the Twitter files and shit we have hammered on, and it's at this point
it's
obviously
important, but man, it's exhausting. It's fucking exhausting, and
I used to think like, dude, and it is important to hear what happened and the fact that the federal government is actively trying to control social media platforms and
yeah,
people's speech. But the truth is, too, I realized this isn't going to matter in an election. The general public has pretty
yeah.
much already swept it under the rug. Like, oh, well, I mean, what else can you do? No one gives a shit. So, like, what do you do?
I know it. It's insane. Like I've been talking for 2 years now about how my channel got throttled, and well, fuck it, the people that hear it, and they hear it because they actually like my show and they come find it out. But my Facebook page, nobody fucking sees that shit. So
It's nuked. Like, it's real life zucked. I mean, like I said,
yeah.
we had a discussion about your reach, and it always came up in my feed. It was always recommended. And
Mm-hmm.
for funsies, after a podcast we did with Jennifer Hill,
Mm-hmm.
started kind of paying attention to, like, let's see how much it's been recommended. 0 times since then. I have to go look for the post or something. Like it never comes up in my
Yeah.
feed. And as dumb as that sounds, it's like, well, that's simple enough. Go look for it. But that's not, Facebook is made as a scroll platform. That's why it's
Yeah.
in endless scrolling. So if it doesn't come up in your feed, 90% of the time you miss it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's just how it goes. So
Yeah.
it's,
And so
yeah.
like that, the biggest thing is like, I hate asking people to share my shit, but honestly, if you do like it, like please do. because that's the only way I get any traction anymore is word of mouth, and the only word of mouth there is on social media is when you shout it out, like share it, whatever.
Yep. Like,
And because that's, and it sounds so fucking dumb and petty, but like, man, I could have been making some serious money at the trajectory I was at, and then fucking Trump happened, and and they just shut shit down.
it was definitely, it's a testament to, I would say, how politicized every level of government has become.
Mm-hmm.
Typically, we always held that our intelligence agencies weren't political offices. They were there for the righteous and the good and the truth. And like, after listening to Matt Taibbi and all this shit on the Twitter files, that's a load of shit. I mean, it's absolutely politicized. They absolutely have picked a side.
Yep.
And this isn't a defend Trump rant, but the left does need to be taken to task for it, is the other side of things. Like,
yeah, well, for sure, man. I mean, and this is just Twitter, which Twitter, I think they said has like 300 million users.
Yeah, and it can't play Facebook or anything like that.
Yeah, there was nothing. I mean, there was a few references to other platforms, but it was mostly specific to Twitter. Facebook's like 5 times the size of
It's massive.
of Twitter. Huge. And YouTube's even bigger than that.
Yep.
And so you're just like, man, I didn't have a following on Twitter, so it wasn't a huge thing for me. But I had a decent following on Facebook, and that just cut it off at the knees.
So in the Rogan podcast that Zuckerberg did, he said they were approached by the FBI and told, like, there's going to be a slew of Russian disinformation flowing in, and it needs to be throttled, essentially. Well, then the Hunter Biden laptop story broke, which was immediately shuttered on all social media platforms. You hate to say right leaning, because I would say the Burning Daylight page was not. It was mostly sarcastable. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it wasn't like there's always a few who take it, too far on the political spectrum, but for the most part, it was just people posting dumb fucking memes for fun.
Yeah.
And they absolutely, I mean, they throttled it. I mean, and you're not alone if you just Google that. There's been a ton of influencers who got throttled. Rogan actually said, thank God he got big enough in his own sphere to not have to rely on Facebook or Twitter to get his reach out, because he's like, I'd have been fucked. Yeah, this would have never happened if I would have relied on social media to, get the word out, because they would have shut me down years ago.
Yeah, and when he moved to Spotify, like from he really kind of just fucking called YouTube's bluff, and then Spotify paid him big, and they still didn't shut down his channel. They might have demonetized stuff, but like his clips get so many views, so much traffic that they're not gonna let that go.
We've got an interjector here.
What's up, dude?
Hey, Jackson. Yeah, sorry
What's
about
up, man? No worries.
And this is what you get when you don't have your own office. Yeah. Yeah. How many kids do you have, Matt?
I got 2. What's up, buddy? Yeah.
This is Jackson. He turned 2 years old today.
Nice.
I have Jameson, who is 4 years old, and then I have a baby due next month, a little girl, and we are done making babies. Not practicing, but doing the thing. We're done.
Yeah. Good enough. Yeah, we decided after 2. I was like, "Hey, are you good?" And she's like, "I'm good."
Yeah, we did too. And I had one very impulsive night in Texas where the intrusive thoughts got the best of me.
Somebody had a fiddle in the band.
That's it. Yeah. And it was like, all right, well, it's happening. So, like I said, That's funny too, because I know I've always discussed abortion and that sort of thing. Hey mama, one second. There's Maddie. Bye. Oh, I'm sorry, buddy. I love you. I've always discussed how I'm pro-choice and all that fun shit. And when faced with the decision of like, we only want two, what do? I'm a chicken shit at heart. I was like, we can't do it. Exactly.
No, I'm the same way. Like I don't care what anybody else does, but I don't know. Me and my wife talked about it at length many times, and it's like it doesn't affect us. Like at the end of the day, that's my kid, and she's the one carrying it. Like that thing's coming out. That's all there is to it.
That's how we settled on it. Was everybody else can do as they please, and we're gonna ride this one out, and then I will get the remedy. So that's the plan.
Yeah. So this will kind of lead into my idea for this this debate series. But so, like I said, somebody in Texas had a fiddle in the band. Have you stepped through those lyrics like line by line?
I guess not in any other way than singing. You know what I mean? Not specifically, I guess.
That song makes just as much sense as New Year's Day by Charlie Robinson. And actually, New Year's Day might make more sense.
Yeah, but the train.
All right, so they say if you're gonna play in Texas, you got to have a fiddle in the band. The lead guitar is hot, but not for a Louisiana man. So are they saying that the Louisiana man needs the fiddle? Because you're talking about in Texas, and I understand they're neighbors, but like,
no, I guess I get what you mean, because it's like, what? Like I said, like those are like that lead. If you're gonna play, you gotta have a fiddle in the band. That lead guitar is hot, but not for a Louisiana man. Like, they completely lose you at that point, I guess.
Like if you and seeing this is where I'd say maybe my wife's a little bit she's not autistic, but she might be a little OCD, and that's you're like, wait, what do you mean by that?
Yeah.
and you're like, well, but hold on, where does Louisiana come into this? Because I thought it was a Texas thing. You had to have a fiddle in the band, and then the guy had his case there, and so like if he knows that if you're gonna play in Texas, you gotta have a fiddle in the band. Like, why is this fiddle still in the fucking case? Like, get that thing out from the get go.
So I'm looking it up. That lead guitar is hot, but not for Louisiana man. And Louisiana man is in quotations, which would infer it's referring to a song. Is there a song called Louisiana Man?
Well, maybe so. You keep scrolling on that. I'll look on Spotify.
It is indeed a song.
Oh, you already got it.
Doug Kershaw.
You were prepared.
Never heard it somehow. Like I said, I've never heard it. And I still am not positive how that is related to. We're missing. We have.
Well, at birth, Mom and Papa called her little boy Ned. He raised him on the banks of the riverbed, on a houseboat tied to a big tall tree. A home for my papa and my mama and me. The clock strikes 3 and Papa jumps to his feet.
Huh. I've never heard that before in my life.
No, and I pride myself on the fact I know music, and I have never heard this shit in my life.
It's
the song has a lot of fiddle.
Yeah.
Maybe they're referencing, like, in order to play that song, you have to have a fiddle, but because in the next line, so he's, but not for Louisiana Man, let's say the song. So rosin up that bow for faded love, and let's all dance. So I think he's referencing Louisiana Man and Faded Love. We all know Faded Love.
Yeah.
So maybe that gives a little more context, and Faded Love doesn't have anything to do with Texas either, I don't guess. Neither does Cotton Eye Joe.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe we just solved the mystery, huh?
It sounds like a formula song. When the more you like, they just threw in a bunch of buzzwords that people would know.
It's like you're like, what rhymes? Like just throw some shit
Yeah.
in. Who gives a shit? It's about a fiddle.
So Louisiana Man by Doug Kershaw. After fulfilling their military obligation, the two brothers recorded Louisiana Man, an autobiographical song that Doug had written in the Army. Song not only sold millions of copies over the years, but has become to be considered a standard of modern Cajun music. Okay. All right. So, but that's a Louisiana thing, and he plays a lot of fiddle. So, like,
I assume he's referencing the songs they play when they go to Texas, like Faded Love, Louisiana Man, Native Texan. Never fucking heard that shit.
I've never once heard somebody call for Cotton Eye Joe.
I've only ironically, you know what I mean? Like I said, never because we wanted to hear it. And
yeah, that's weddings and high school dances. That's
an FFA leadership camp dances.
Yeah. FFA leadership.
That's all that ever was. Like nobody, man. I have never looked into it until right now, and now
I hadn't really thought about it until my wife brought it up the other day. But it sounds like something I would have brought up and not her. And
yeah. Yeah. Fun fact, before we get too far, do you know what the Cotton Eye Joe's about? I just learned this.
No, I don't.
About an STD.
Is it really?
It is, yeah.
And
Cotton Eye would be the pus leaking. So where did you come from? Where did you go? Where did you go? If it hadn't been for Cotton Eye Joe, I'd been married a long time ago. So referencing. Yeah.
And we let 13-year-olds dance, like not just let them, but that's they encourage to dance for country kids.
And that's just one of the theories, obviously, but it is most people agree it is a reference to some sort of disease, either of the eye or of the penis. And Cotton Eye Joe was a reference to a venereal disease back in the day.
Well, there you go.
But you know what? The Rednecks back circa 90, what the fuck ever, did a hell of a job remixing it, and people do a very stupid line dance to it now.
Yes, I do. So anyway, the more you know, you learn a lot of shit here on Burning Daylight.
Welcome, people.
Did you get a chance to listen to the history professor?
I didn't. We've been here in Phoenix hanging out with family, and I've been Tucson and Sedona and we went to the zoo and all kinds of shit. I have not had time yet.
No, when you get a chance, please let me know what you think, because I like that guy a lot. He was fucking cool.
Where was he a professor at again?
It was Columbia College and the University of Illinois at Chicago.
How'd you get in contact with that guy?
I read his book on it's called Slaughterhouse. Highly recommend. I told him, and I mean it, it's the best like historical telling of how Chicago started as a meatpacking town and became like the Goliath it was, and then all the way up to, I think it was published in 2014.
Chicago's Union Stockyard and the World It Made.
Yeah, Dominic Pasiga is his name.
There you go. Yeah, Dominic Pasiga. Okay, well, he's got 4.4 stars. Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a great because when you start looking into the packing industry, there's not a lot of just straightforward historical stuff. There's a lot of, it's really biased, and it's mostly against the packing industry, which I think is fair. Don't get me wrong, I think that's fair. But also, like I was telling him, I think a lot of, especially modern historians, and I'm guessing it was probably true back in the day too, is they they tried too hard to put their own agenda in, and they missed the goddamn story. And I'm just like, stop with the agenda, stop with the bias, and just tell the damn story. And I think that's what he did. And I thought it was a really good read. And I forget. Oh, I was gonna do a bull session with Caleb Hawley, and his internet service and self service was just not working at all.
Yeah.
And also I think there was I was still figuring out some audio shit on my end. And but whatever, I think that was the day, but it just wasn't working. And so I was like, I was like, let's try it some other time. And then I was like, well, I'll record something tonight. Couldn't come up with anything. And so had about 100 pages left in that book. And I was just, well, let's knock it out. And I really liked that book. And then, so I looked him up and found his publisher. And then I saw where he was teaching at and whatever. So I found his email address and I just sent him an email, and he emailed me back the next morning. Nice. And yeah, so it worked out really good. And now, like, I'm for sure going to go to Chicago and have him show me around where the stockyards used to be. Mm-hmm. And he has a museum down there, and he's just a fucking Chicago guy and a history guy too. But like, he's wrote several books just on the history of Chicago.
Did you learn anything you didn't know, would you say?
I learned a lot about kind of that urban decay. Because once those Packers, especially, like, it was IBP that really kind of led the way to decentralizing the packing industry. And it's funny is, back in the day, all the producers were worried about the centralization in Chicago and Omaha, and but then once the unions kind of took hold, and the production costs got bigger and bigger, and then trucking, more than anything, it was trucking. It was like, the unions played a big part.
Yep.
But it was trucking that was able to, where you could just go pick up the cattle instead of having to drive them to a railhead or whatever.
Sure.
And then that led and then the Packers were able to go right to the rancher, and it's essentially, like, the ranchers kind of cut their own throat without knowing it at the time.
Yeah.
And that led everything going away from Chicago and Omaha and whatnot, and where before they had these like 8, 9, 10-story packing houses, where when they moved them out to like Grand Island or Garden City or Amarillo or wherever, mm-hmm. It was a 2-story deal, and it was a lot more efficient, a lot more modern. But then you had a bunch of union guys with mortgages and shit, and then all of a sudden there's nothing left for them.
Yep.
And that's when the crime really skyrocketed.
Gotcha.
And so
I'll give the book a read. That sounds pretty interesting, and it is weird because at one time Chicago that's where cattle went. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it is weird how rapidly that fell. I mean, like, that dynasty did not last.
No, and it rose and fell all within 106 years. Like, they went from nothing to or like just like starting to be something to the top of the world, like the center of the world meat industry. Yep. And then kind of an afterthought in 106 years. Mm-hmm. Wild.
That quickly. Like I said, that quickly. I mean, it went from, I assume that was the largest cattle depot in the U.S., wasn't it? It had to be the largest.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And now, I mean, is there anything left standing of it? Is there even a sign? I mean,
the gates are still there, and he runs a museum in the old stockyard area, and it's where his granddad worked. He got hurt and then died a couple months later.
Gotcha.
But his granddad was immigrated from Poland and started his career as a unskilled worker in the stockyards. So like right around like 1905 or somewhere in there.
I got this is off topic as shit. I was on Google Maps just kind of looking at Chicago for some reason. It's like trying to understand why Chicago became the cattle depot. And it does make sense because it's an in-betweener, I guess, for the Western. It's definitely central Midwest. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But it's on the Great Lakes and
exactly.
and the Mississippi River.
Mm-hmm.
So it was an obvious place before the railroad, and then then it became the terminal for the middle of the country for all the railroads.
And something that this sounds dumb, and you're going to go, this is the dumbest thing I've ever heard Zach say on the podcast. I find it so weird. I grew up in the United States, and if I went north of North Dakota, there is a whole other country of white people doing shit that I know nothing about.
I know. I've got a handful of Canadian listeners. I got to say the Canadians got to pick up their shit because I switched over to a new platform, and so I've got a little better analytics, and it's United States is number 1, Singapore is number 2,
Singapore,
then Ireland, and then Canada. My other site was always US, Canada, Australia. So I don't know if it's VPNs or what it is, but Canada, get your shit together.
How many listeners are you getting out of Ireland?
Let's see. I'll pull that up real quick.
That's info I need to know before I can get into this cowboy debate.
All right. So, and I've been on this news service for about a month, so I've got a little under 11,000 from the US. Australia bumped up. So Australia's second at 709. Singapore's at 544 and 299 from Ireland.
Well, anybody out there from Ireland, I encourage you to reach out and message Matt and explain what you're getting out of these talks exactly.
Yeah.
And also I will be in Galway putting on the Buckaroos have been doing a much better job going to Europe and putting on clinics.
Yeah.
So I will be in Galway next year wrecking the shit out of some of y'all's Highlander cattle. I encourage everyone to come watch. It is a $50 fee to watch me destroy your native fat cattle.
Nice.
Yeah. And also, you will be charged for pictures later for the meet and greet. That is not free. I don't care what. I've always thought
cost you at least a pint.
At least minimal. Like that's whatever it's going to cost. It's not going to be cheap for sure. You people.
Well, I hear Ireland's corrupt as shit, and a pint gets you a long ways. So
that's really Ireland is corrupt as shit, huh?
I think everybody's corrupt.
Everybody's to say I don't know who's not.
I don't know. When you think Ukraine's really corrupt, I mean, Zelensky stole 400 million from us over the last year.
Yeah,
but then you look, you say between like Pelosi and Crenshaw, fuck man, they stole a lot more than that.
Crenshaw is such a charge.
Oh, he's such a. So anyway, back to this debate idea.
Sorry, yeah, back to it.
But go see Zach in Ireland if you're all you 299 people from Ireland. Go see him.
Yeah, and I'll be doing a head count for sure.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I think the best way to do this thing, at least to get it started, get the ball rolling, and we could have an actual series. We'll do best cowboy song. People submit their song that you think most accurately reflects what it means to be a cowboy, to live the cowboy lifestyle. And then we'll have a pool of topics. We'll if anything doesn't make sense, we'll throw it right on out. Fuck that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not a 100% democratic deal, but from there we can narrow it down, and then we can make like a March Madness type tournament from it,
Mhm.
and then like narrow it down. So say there's like 8 songs or something like that, and then we can have people write in and like, all right, here, tell us why this is the best cowboy song, and then we can pair them with another song,
Okay.
and then that way, like, is there really a winner? I don't know. Me and you get to decide that because we're moderators.
Yeah, I love that.
And but also, like, that way you're not really calling into you're not calling out anybody's style. You're talking about like words that somebody wrote when they were thinking about cowboys. And sometimes, I mean, like that Unrung song. I don't know if they were talking about cowboys at all. I just but it reminds me of a lot of cowboys when he's talking about this older guy getting ready to just break this little 22-year-old girl's heart.
Yeah. Like, just she has no idea. Yeah.
Again, again. And then you're also but the thing that I was the more I listen to that song, and that's the one I've had on loop, it just like, is he talking about his hero, or is he talking about himself? And at what point does he go from talking about his hero to talking about himself?
Yeah, like, this is actually me. Yeah, like I said, like, I am the piece of shit. Yeah, like I am the wall which it breaks off of.
Man, I would love to get Evan Felker on a podcast. I could talk to that guy for fucking hours.
I don't know what it would take, but it would be, that would be one of those where honestly it might just be boring because nothing is going to get discussed besides that. Like, I don't give a shit where you grew up. You know what I mean? Like,
I know, and there'll just be like 9 autistic people just like, that was the best thing ever, dude.
Where does this sadness live in you, and can you tell me how to find it?
Yeah, and just like, all right, which part of this was real life and which part was just making the song? And
like that song I showed you, like Copper Canteen. I've been, like I said, anybody who hasn't listened to James McMurtry, he is the son of Larry McMurtry, who wrote Lonesome Dove, which is the great Western novel, I would say. If there was a Romeo and Juliet of Western novella, it would most likely be Lonesome Dove, I think, according to most people. But his son has some great music. I would recommend Ruby and Carlos and Copper Canteen to anybody. But I like him for the exact same reason I like Turnpike, and that's, you can listen to one of their songs on repeat 5-6 times, and you still feel like you kind of get it, but you're like, I gotta sleep on this one. Like, it's everything has, the lyrics are so layered. You really have to try to discover, like you said, like, who's he talking about? You know what I mean? Like, I mean, and like, that's one reason I love those types of musicians, and especially songwriters, is just, I like songs that make me feel, like songs that have an ability to put you into that mindset. And it's something like mainstream country music has completely lost any ability to do. Like, they can't hit it anymore.
Yeah, it's just like manufactured, like
exactly. It's
like
just,
we were talking, it's a formula type deal. It's man, it's it's all right. So like for me, the quintessential cowboy song is Cowpoke. Like
Yeah.
that. It doesn't matter what version. Is it Eddie Arnold? Is it Coulter Wall? Is it Dave Stamey? I don't give a shit. I love that song. I love the lyrics. I love how simple it is. It's just and one of the reasons I was listening to Unrung because it's a simple guitar part, and like I'd like to do a lot more of these shows, and I can play guitar a little bit. I can sing a guitar. I can sing a little bit. Can't do both at the same time right now.
Sure.
But I'm tired of being like the only guy. Like I love telling jokes and I love telling stories, but like I'd like to be able to jam with some guys that I have on stage. So like I'm not going to be not doing shit at my own show anymore.
Yeah.
And it's, so I was I'm like kicking around songs to learn how to play, and that was one of them. And it's a really simple part, but I love the fucking lyrics. And same way with Cowpoke, and it's just a simple song all the way around, but it kind of in 2.5 minutes it encompasses what cowboy life is. And I don't know what that song is for you, but I think maybe that should be our first debate. We should find a couple moderators. Like Derek Mott said he'd moderate.
Yep.
So I'll call Derek and you pick one on your own, and then so what's your song?
God, I knew it was coming too. And as far as one that really pins down it, like how I feel about it, like the romance of it all, I guess, probably Horses and Wars by Red Steagall. Is probably the one I listen to a lot. And it is about cowboying, but it's about kind of the brutal change of time too.
Yeah.
And it always gets me just because, same as you, my family has done this for generations now.
Mm-hmm.
And I've, known the generations that have passed and did it. And just to hear, like, my great granddad telling stories of being on the big ranch wagons and the screwworm doctor and crews, and then going to my dad, just kind of how things have changed. And it's not that it has went away. It's just John Langmore put it really well, where he said the fringes is where it's changed. There's a lot of trailering and that sort of shit now, but at its core, we're doing the same thing. It's still punching cows, but the fringes have changed. They've changed, and I'm only 20. I'm only 28 now, but it's changed drastically, even since I was a kid.
Yeah.
It's since my great granddad was doing it, he would cuss all of us for sheep farmers. Now I'm sure if he could see how we do a lot of shit.
Right.
But yeah, it's Horses and Wars by Red Steagall is what I'll put in for now. That's a toughie because half of my music is like sad songs that have nothing to do with cowboying, and a quarter of my shit is cowboy songs that are upbeat, and then the last quarter is sad cowboy songs. So like it's like that's kind of what I listen to.
See, but this is what I think is going to be a great topic, because you have two songs, and let's get two people on both sides, and let's debate the shit out of it.
I think it'd be great. Yeah, just like here's
and then from there,
here's why your Trinity Seeley version is bullshit, type thing.
Yeah, and also like from there we can expand on that. Like we can pick up on some themes, and then we can, like, whatever like the hot button issue is, like then we're into like some actual cowboy debates. Like this
is good because like whenever I first went up to like northwestern Wyoming when I was 19, I listened like where I was from. Don Edwards was huge. Red Steagall was huge. R.W. Hampton was huge. Larry McWhirter was big. Then I got up north, and I had never heard of Dave Stamey or Trinity Seeley or a bunch of these guys that people were listening to, And even like the cowboy music was different. You know what I mean? Chris Ledoux was actually probably the one who spanned everybody.
Kind of everybody, yeah.
And Ian
That was
spanned
my cowboy artist, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Was
Yeah,
Chris Ledoux.
and Ian Tyson also spanned really well. God, that pisses me off. I just thought it like 50 years ago should have been the fucking song, but I'll stick with Horses and Wars. Like, oh, I'll stick with it. Like, yeah, Ian Tyson, he spanned at North and South. Everyone loved Ian Tyson. But yeah, like even the Western cowboy artists were different drastically from where I grew up to getting up north and some of that more buckaroo type country.
Well, and then even you go to like the modern day, like that first Ian Munsick album, I was like, man, that's some like it's new age. You know, it's a little poppier than just about any cowboy song ever, but like that's a sure enough cowboy song. Like it wasn't the best writing, but it was pretty damn good. And then he went real. I've heard his newest album is not bad.
Hey, Jameson, I'm doing something, buddy. Yeah, Cowboy Killer made me want to stick a shotgun in my mouth. That was the worst pile of shit I've heard since Florida Georgia Line fucking gave herpes to all of country music.
Yeah, it was pretty rough. I don't. My buddy said his newest album was worth listening to. I haven't listened to it yet, but
he's got some ground to cover. I was like, oh.
Yeah, I was gonna say he's got a lot of ground to make up. But
I like a lot of Bryn Hill. He doesn't get a ton of credit, but I like a lot of Bryn.
I like Bryn Hill. I like Matt Robertson. I like Darren Little.
I didn't even really know Darren until Facebook, and then I started listening to a lot of Darren's stuff, and he does you can tell he's punched cows for a living. Like he does a really good job of selling it. The mainstream, the popular guys doing it now. Coulter Wall has done a hell of a good job maintaining this genre. As well as Core Blund has done as good a job as anybody, I would say.
Core Blund is one of the best songwriters to ever walk this earth, I think. Mm-hmm. I really his songs are so fucking smart. Just
all of them. He's I would actually, as far as his songwriting goes, he is extremely clever, and he also has kind of that, I call it the Bob Wills tendency. So he can be very humorous in a lot of his songs.
Yeah.
Like I love The Truck Got Stuck. It's kind of one of his goofier ones, but I love it.
He's on record saying that he like wished he never would have wrote that.
No shit.
Yeah.
I love it. I think it's great.
Well, I'm not necessarily what did he say? He said he wrote that. It was the dumbest fucking thing he ever wrote, but it made him a lot of money. So whatever. Yeah. and it's one of the more requested songs that he has. He's like, I wrote all these other ones that I'm really proud of, but you guys want to hear Truck Got Stuck.
One of the first thanks, buddy. One of the first ones I heard by Core Blund. It's been years ago now, but it was I Want to Be in the Cavalry, but it was the reprise version.
Oh, I like that better. I mean, I love the original.
The reprise is the one it's the one I listen to. I remember
it reminds me of fucking George Pickett, you know?
Yeah, and it's
even though Pickett wasn't a cavalry officer, but it reminded me of George Pickett, you know, just like that slow walk back to your lines after your entire unit got cut down.
Yeah, it's been like destroyed, and it was like that was what kind of sold me on Core Blund when I heard that. I was like, holy shit. You know what I mean? Like that was like the final verse. If you can listen to that and not feel something, I don't know how. It's but no, like Core Blund and Coulter Wall both are still putting out really good cowboy music. Not that other people aren't. They have the two largest followings, I would say, as far as listeners.
See, and I'm still like I'm pretty sold on Coulter Wall at this point, but I want to hear some original shit from him. Like I want to see what he's sitting on, you know. Like, it's
his first album was original music and great. You know what I mean? It
so
was
good. He just put out bangers, and the last couple albums have all been old cowboy covers, which I love. Don't get me wrong. I'll listen to the shit out of them. But
Yeah,
as a fan of like songwriting, I'm like, what do you got? What are you working on? Like
like
have you run out or what?
after I mean, and he had like Kate McCannon, but that song came out in like 20. I can look it up. That's like 2016, 17,
Something
right?
like that, yeah. It's been a minute.
Yeah, that was 2017, and like that was 13 Silver Dollars came out, and after that, like he hasn't really come out with anything original. It's all been kind of new age stuff.
Yeah, it's just been it's covering cowboy songs or something like that. And it would, like I said, don't get me wrong, I love it. But I want to see what he's got. Like, are you working on something, or are you like you went and found yourself? He went and cowboyed for a while. Now he's got himself, a ranch up in Canada. So like, you got something in the bank, or are you calling it good?
That guy turned down the Joe Rogan podcast, and I get
how crazy is that?
I'm like, you know what, like respect, like but also if he had a manager, I know that guy quit that day. Like, I can't get you better steam than the Joe Rogan podcast. Like
that is the biggest platform on planet Earth.
You will never get enough radio play, enough Spotify download. Nothing will ever cover
outside of playing the Super Bowl halftime show. That is as big as it gets.
There is no better free. I mean, that was all the free advertising he would have needed to be a billionaire. Like,
I mean, he already got it just from Rogan mentioning him.
Mm-hmm. And do you ever listen to like Charlie Stout?
Oh, dude, I saw Charlie Stout at the Outside Circle show in Elko.
Nice.
Last year. And I shook his hand. I talked to him a little bit in the parking lot of Stockman's, and I need to get a hold of him again, because I'd like to have him on the show. But that what is the name of that song? But
I See Stars is probably my favorite.
Yes, that's it. I see Ocotillo blowing in the wind. That's a great driving song.
It makes me sad. My wife makes fun of me because I've cried to that song. She's like, "Why are you crying? You've never been shot at by Texas Rangers." I'm like, "It's not the point."
No, every time the McKinley family goes anywhere, I guarantee you will, over like 2 hours drive, we got Charlie Stout on.
I love that album. I'm looking at it right now. It was called Flatland Murder Ballads and High Plains Hymns.
Yeah. And he's from somewhere in the Panhandle.
Yeah, I know his cousin.
500 golden pieces and a shoulder full of lead. A worn out horse between my feet, pounding in my head.
I love those.
Gotta make it to the border. Lord, this ain't no place to die. On the river's northern shore, underneath the Texas sky. I see stars, I see Ocotillo blowing in the wind. Feel the breathing of my pony, I know we've reached the end. Hear hoofbeats in the distance and the shouts of angry men. Oh, the Rangers may surround me, they'll never take me in.
Yeah, I fucking love that shit. That's a good. It's not so much a cowboy song, but it's like a good Western song,
Yeah, it's beautiful.
I love those type of ballads. One of the best songs I've ever seen played live was Randy Rogers Band played Tommy Jackson, and it was a crowd of about 30 people up in Fort Collins. They were supposed to open for Ragweed.
Nice.
I forget which one is the drummer in Ragweed, but he broke his hand up in Laramie.
Gotcha.
And so they canceled, and then we got snowed in. So it was either, get your money back or you can come see Randy Rogers play.
Yeah.
And he played his fucking ass off. And I requested Tommy Jackson because I love those fucking bandit songs, just the outlaw songs. And he's like, shit, man, I haven't played that song in so long. And but so he went up there just on a stool and played it acoustic, and it was It's fucking beautiful, man. You know, it's like that's the story of the West.
I
It's just
Robert Duvall actually said, he said, like, like every country kind of has their claim, not their claim to fame, but their claim to art. Like,
yeah,
obviously, the British are renowned for their Shakespeare. The Scots got their, oh, come on, Braveheart.
yeah,
Like everybody basically gets their own, everyone they get Lawrence of Arabia or whoever. Every culture gets theirs. And he said, what the United States got was the Western. Like there is no better background for storytelling than the Western. And I think that is one reason I tell people, like, the reason I like very off the reason I can't hang with mainstream country is because the Western backdrop gives you a beautiful backdrop to tell any story on. I mean,
yeah.
love ballads, revenge ballads, suicide, I mean, anything. And the
Cowboys are always cooler than farmers, dude. Always.
dude, who the fuck grows up and is like, I want to be a farmer?
I had some gal from Mississippi. She was like, anybody that refers themselves as cowboy has probably only worked cattle in an arena. It's hand. And I was like,
fuck?
she was from Mississippi.
Oh yeah, big ranch country down there.
And I said the only hands from Mississippi are from an overly touchy relative.
Parishes, boy. A couple years ago, some people probably remember this, as a joke on a fun bartering website on Facebook. All I posted was, if you blanket your horses, you're a cotton farmer. It was just,
I remember that.
I was at a car dealership trying to get into a new wagon. I was like, I'm bored as shit. So let's just see what happens. Figure most people would, good one. I figured I'd get some combativeness. I'm not kidding you. I literally had 3 or 4 people send me not like legitimate death threats of like, if I find you, I will kill you. And I was like, Jesus Christ, like you fucking cotton farming motherfucker. You know what I mean? Like, my ass. Like people have the dumbest opinions on shit. And you were speaking of the hand. I had a lady there. She said, like, nobody would want to be known as a cowboy. My grandfather was a hand on many ranches, and he only wanted to be called a stockman. And I was like, and all I put was like, your granddad probably wasn't worth a fuck. You know what I mean? I was like, your granddad. He sent me a death threat. There's a 70-year-old woman sending me death threats.
Oh,
and I was
that's
like,
funny.
I was like, tell me where your grandpappy punch cat. You know what I mean? I was like,
yeah. Yeah.
He did not, I don't know anybody. It's like, I'm a stockman. It's like, then you suck. You and Buck Brannaman should go blow each other. You know what I mean? I was like,
I forget what, yeah, she said it was hand. Oh, and also I said, yeah, she said, if you refer yourself as cowboy, you probably only work cattle in the arena. And I said, if you took my tweet as serious, you're probably a damn sodbuster.
This is real farmer shit right here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you are getting very sensitive.
And then yeah, she was like, I took it from your profile, and then I went to her profile, and she's from Mississippi, and I said, well, yeah, the only hands from Mississippi are overly touchy relatives. And
somebody posted a picture of it was some lady. She saw a picture of a bit and was going through the natural horsemanship speech to everybody on the site. And I told her, like, one time I traded for a little mare who was off the racetrack and had no reverse gear. And I said, so one day I was mad. I hopped off, jerked my reins as tight as I could get them, and half hitched them around the horn, and saw a 2x4 laying there. And by the time we were done, I was left with a toothpick and a new reverse gear. And I was like, the horse makes it as brutal as they want to. You know what I mean? Like that. I honestly believe you could put a chainsaw chain in a horse's mouth, and if you got tender hands, won't hurt them a bit. You know what I mean? I was like, I don't believe, because the Californios bits, like the big spade bits and shit, the horsey people see them and lose their minds on those
Yeah.
bits. Like, what a cruel tool. I'm like, it's actually the exact opposite. You know what I mean? Like,
Well,
I mean,
exactly,
it's
because you
all
don't put
fit.
them. You don't even put them in their mouth until they're
Fucking
they're they're already pretty goddamn good.
Yeah, exactly. Like, well, even like back home, like nobody used spades much. Usually we went to like a solid port grazer bit. You know what I mean? Like that's
Yeah.
what we were done.
Yeah, like a high
With those.
port or a cathedral was
Yeah,
like
and like
about as big
that's
as you saw, I
that's as
guess.
acidic as he got. Yeah, and like you only put that shit into a finished horse. You know what I mean? Like that never went
Yeah.
into a fucking 2-year-old's mouth. You know what I mean? Like I was like that
Yeah.
was like that finished horse shit. But horse women from the Southeast and just the Midwest in general are extremely opinionated on such matters.
Oh, dude.
Well,
West Coast, same way.
I have to say
God damn, dude.
there's a lot of Fort Collins horsey bitches out there that have some stupid opinions.
Yeah. Yeah, dude, I got my ass fucking reamed at the CSU Equine Center when I was working there my senior year. So it was the colt starting class, and I was feeding that day, and like the class ran long or something like that. But I because they normally weren't there, but I was going through and I was tossing hay, and the professor was just like yanking on this horse's mouth. I'm just fucking letting her have it, and it's like, don't get me wrong, I've done that too. It's not good when it comes to that level. Like I usually know, like I probably should just put this horse away because I'm not doing any good. But it's usually at a spot where I can't. You
Sure.
know? And but anyway, I was like, but then it was like 2 or 3 colts in a row that she was doing this, and I was like, hey, have you ever thought about like not yanking on their face? And oh man, she ripped my fucking ass right in front of this class. But her like assistant professor came up to me and she's like, you want to make some money after hours? And I was,
sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
I was like, I don't even have a saddle up here. And she's like, we got extras. I was like, all right, cool. So I rode some shitty saddles, but I rode some pretty nice horses on some really shitty saddles.
Well,
all after hours, but
well, it's hard because like whenever you're in a spot to where you're training horses or training on horses, and there's no expectation of productivity, nor most guys, unless you're just kind of a jacked off idiot, or they're pretty soft handed and they're trying to step through. It's usually when there's an expectation of productivity that things get a little rough handed. Like, we're sorting cattle. This 3-year-old's been doing good and now he's sold completely up on me. And like that's where you can't make people that don't cowboy for a living really understand, because a lot of times it's like, this isn't horse training time. Like we're about to have a wreck. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like this, if he doesn't get where we need to be, no one chews his ass. You know what I mean? Like they chew mine. So like,
yeah, well, it's just like, you know what? Fuck his ribs. I got to stick a spur right here so we don't die.
Yeah, I could save us an hour and a half of work here or something like that if he will just get 20 yards this direction. You know what I mean? Like, but
yeah.
And that is where it's hard to make straight horse people a lot. And I know some really good horse hands who savvy all this shit. But a lot of the horsey type people that are slow as fast and never push the horse further. And I'm like, well, you never want to, but also like pressure makes horses. I mean, a lot of my horses have been in some stupid that I put them in a lot of times. A lot of times it was my fault. But they came out better because of it, because it was like, my bad, I got us here. Don't lose your mind. I'll get us out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
also, and then there's sometimes where it's like, well, fuck, they got to learn sometimes. So
and that's it too. Sometimes I've got it. I was on the Diamond A Ranch in northern Arizona, actually riding a horse. He was 4 years old, which is usually when those horses went into the wagon string when I was there on that ranch. And he was doing really well. I really liked the horse, but to my knowledge, I hadn't roped off him yet, and I don't think anybody had. We had a big red herd bull completely quit us, and he was headed for the high country. And this is this pasture, I think that was Last Chance. I think that pasture's like 65,000 acres, like just the pasture.
Just
So
a
if
little fella.
Yeah,
Just
well,
a
yeah, and
little
it's like
fella.
we're not gonna get him in the fall. You know what I mean? Like if he's gone, he's way gone. Like we're not
Yeah.
coming back to gather him this afternoon. And this son of a bitch was putting me and this horse. We ran back and we're fighting him, and there's a big that Last Chance country is pretty flat, but then you bust into some really breaky shit, and he was headed for the breaky shit and whipping our ass. And finally, I was like, if I come back without a bull, or if I'm not injured and I'm bullish, there's ass chewings coming. So
Yeah.
like, buddy, like now's the time to learn. So I built a loop and very shakily, like I said, I was like, please let me miss, like just please God, let me miss. I didn't, and we got him roped, and he was a lot. That buddy horse was, at first you could tell I was like, because I was tied off. I didn't dally at all then for the most part. That was in my younger years, and took about 5 minutes for us to get everybody jerked around solid before Buddy finally savvied what we were doing, that horse. And we got that bull tied down out there next to a windmill, like I said, and he was, after that, we went to roping on that booger. I did. He was in my string and he was solid. So
Yep.
Was that where I wanted to teach him how to stand there and hold a rope? Like, no. But, I mean, like you said, sometimes it's like, we got nothing but fresh air and opportunity here. So
yeah. Well, and sometimes like that's the only chance I got. Like,
yeah. I mean, if I blow this, there's going to be ass chewings handed out. You know what I mean? Like that, we're not coming back for him. That fucker.
Yeah.
And it's one of those deals. That's a big enough ranch. It's like he may have missed together 2 years in a row for all I know. You know what I mean? Like if he's, if he's already this shitty, who knows when the last time he came in was. So like we need to get him, and we got him. But it was one of the few times in my life right before I threw, I literally thought, like, if I miss and he gets away, that's all right. You know what I mean? I was like, that's okay with me if I don't get him caught.
Now, if you see the boss or the owner build a loop and take after something, you better step down and tighten a cinch and then haul ass, because that fucker needs roped.
Yes, crack everyone's ass right now. Like I said, like you need to be shit.
Get tight and get after him.
That shit to this day, in which I've worked a lot of wheat field cattle and shit now, and to this day, nothing pisses me off more than you'll have a loop built and something gets out of hand, or you got one, just an idiot Southeastern that's just bombing ass, and you roll up there and let's say you miss, and you're like, hell, I got another guy with me, and you look back and he's 300 yards back there trotting with a loop built. So you plan on getting in the game, or I was like, hell, you don't pack that long of a rope. Like, get your ass up here.
No shit, man.
I've never gotten guys that wanted to cowboy and then were scared to rope. If they took my rope away, I'd quit cowboying. It was like, fuck this.
There's nothing that pisses me off more, and I'm not a great roper at
all.
I'm
with you.
I'm not the best roper. I'll get a job done.
Sure.
But there's nothing that'll piss me off more than somebody says they can rope and then they can't.
I've been there, and it
it's like, hey, can you pick up 2? Can you pick up 1? Can you pick up 1? If you pick up 1, we're good. And they're like, I got it. And then they're like, all of a sudden you're tight, and they're like, hey, I've never actually dallied before, and you're like, oh fuck.
Okay, well, just get off and flank him and then head to the tack house.
One of those was like an 800-pound steer, and I was like, God damn it. And I was also like, it was a brand new rope, and it was a hind leg abscess. And you're just like, I don't want to smell this thing for 3 weeks. I just bought the motherfucker.
Up here, yeah.
and so then, and they couldn't pick up 2, and I was like, all right, well, I've got him stopped.
Sure.
Here, you hop on my horse. And they're like, but then they didn't know how to hold the dally either. And I was like, oh, fuck. Never mind. So I got back on my horse and tripped him. And And yeah, ruined a rope for
I had
no good goddamn reason.
we hired a kid and ended up having to fire him. And he wasn't a bad guy. I still, to this day, I like him. He's a good kid. And he told me how much he liked to rope. Boy, I love to rope. And this is in the feed yard.
Mm.
And I will say, it's kind of like like there's, and you know this because you've been on all of it, but when you're outside, there's certain ways you can rope. If you're in a roe deer, or if you're on wheat field cattle, or if you're in the feed yard, you have to kind of adjust your roping style. And the feed yard is tough on a lot of guys because you don't have any room.
No.
And a lot of times you'll get one loop before they all smell a rat. You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah.
And so,
see, that's where that long rope really comes into play.
Well,
like,
and that plays into the story. So I normally pack 38 foot in that yard, and I tied off some, and I dallied on slick some, just depended on my mood. Those feedlots get so damn slick sometimes being tied off. Even for me, I can admit I get a little chicken hearted. I mean, you get something jerked around, it'll be flat on its ass.
Yeah.
So he told me he had team rope. Well, he had a 28-foot rope that he used and had a post horn with rubber on it.
Oh fuck.
Well, the first day we went to rope something, he was pulling calves and he built a loop, run out there, and he necked him and never even went to the horn, just watched it run through. And I thought, God damn, he must not have been ready or something. So I closed the gate and I went and I got it necked and he got his rope back and I drug it out. And this kind of continued. I couldn't let him ride alone because the kid could catch, but he couldn't get to the horn ever. I mean, I would say like 7 times out of 10. Not only his dallies never got there. So I finally, one day I pull up and he's lost his rope and he's tied his rope to the fence. And his calf is just, the calf is on its side shaking because you can tell it choked down, just barely against the fence. And he's leading his horse up and trying to get his rope untied. And I said, tie that calf down, get your rope, get mounted, I'll untie it. That way there's nothing, you don't get halfway up or something and gets up. And we got it drug out. And I said, I let guys tie off. So if you want to tie off, tie off. If you don't want to tie off, they sell those ropes up to 100 foot. You know what I mean? Like it.
Yeah.
I said, but like this shit ain't going to work. Like you have got to figure out if you want to be a dally man, get faster or bring more line or both. You know what I mean? I was like, and if you don't, that's fine. Throw a horn knot in it. But whatever you do, I don't care how you do it. You have got to learn how to be good at it. Like this is not okay.
Yeah.
And I'm not mad, but if that manager pulls up here and sees that calf season,
he's going to be real pissed.
And the ass chewing goes to me, and then the one I give to you is worse. You know what I mean? I was like that. You have to keep in mind people are
shit
watching.
Rolls downhill.
Yes, and like people are watching, and it ended up had to turn the guy loose, but he was one of those weird guys where it wasn't that he couldn't necessarily rope. The guy could catch. He didn't know what to do after he caught it. It was like, you know what I mean? It's like, that's not handy. Like that doesn't work.
That's one of those things. Like everybody can catch something at some point. Like everybody can catch, but like it's when it comes tight, that's when you know if you're cowboy or not.
And that's one reason I am so unopinionated and why I would be a horrible guy to defend the cowpuncher shit by myself because like I said, I've got a post horn on my saddle and I've got a couple of really cool horn knots made. And I also have I pack usually a 45 footer now. And I'm a big believer in I honestly do not give a single shit. You can, if you're good at it, tie off to the D-rings, tie off to their tail. I don't give a shit. I don't care. Just be good at it. And if you're not good at it, you don't have an opinion. I don't give a shit if you don't
let's go punch cows.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. It's like you if you're not good at it, and I've seen a lot of tied off guys that were my God, I tie that I run that tiger chain to the peg. I'm always ready. And it's like you can do that because you've never caught anything. You know what I mean? It's like you're in no fear of getting in a wreck because you don't catch shit.
I've heard on both sides of the debate, and it's always from somebody who probably ties their split reins in a knot. But they're like, if you call yourself a puncher, back in the day, puncher was meant for the
Oh,
the handlers at the stockyards, and they punched him with a stick. And you're like, and if you call yourself a buckaroo, it's because you couldn't actually hang with the California guys. And like, both of you guys talking have never actually cowboyed in your life or buckarooed.
I saw
It's just
one,
like,
yeah, 100%. I saw a post from a guy who was like, when he was in New Mexico, he said he asked a guy, how long have you been a cowpuncher? And he said the old man ran up and grabbed him by his shirt collar and said, you don't ever call me a cowpuncher. That's an insult. And he was like, basically he was asking if it was an insult. And I grew up in the middle of cowpuncher country. My great granddad, who started punching cows in the 30s, he called himself a cowpuncher. Teddy Blue Abbott called himself a cowpuncher, that's the 1980s.
So did Charlie Russell.
Yep, and Bob Fudge, same thing. I was like, it's been common terminology for a man of horseback since the 1870s, I would guess. You know what I mean? It's not new. And also, even the cowpunchers I worked around, if you'd walked up and been like, how long you been a buckaroo? They've been like, 30 years. They don't give a shit. They've been like, whatever. They're like, I don't, sure. Like you said, I don't.
That's what, and so that's why our original deal would have never worked, because
I guess they're like, whatever. Like you said,
if you ask them to defend their style, if somebody would have said like, my style is better than yours, they'd been like, maybe where you're from, but come out to my and like I said, it would have just turned into a bull session.
But I do like your idea of let's get away from that topic, go to kind of a broader topic.
Yeah.
It's and see what kind of data we gather off of these choices. You know what I mean? See kind of what that looks like. I like that, because like I said, just even like the northern versus southern cowboy songs look different. So I think you'll get a lot of neat input off that.
Well, and also you may get some that are not even cowboy songs, but if you make a compelling argument for it,
hey, it's like
you might win the room.
There's a ton of songs that aren't about cowboying that I relate to from the cowboy side. One I really relate to for some reason or another. You've heard it. It's an old song from the 70s, but it's I Gave Up Good Morning Darling and We Love You Daddy for This.
Yeah.
Have you heard it? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
For some reason, as a cowboy, I relate, because it's like, as dumb as it sounds, I know a ton of good cowboys living on some remote ass camp that all have the same story of, I was married and I got a boy that lives in town. I still try to see him, but she didn't want to do this for a living, and I did. Yep. It's like, and you gave up the family man dream to live in squalor. You know what I mean? I was like, to live in a rat infested squalor. Like, you know what I mean? That's, that's what I wanted to do. It's like, hey, bully on you, dude. I get it.
Well, and also Bob Seger, Turn the Page. That. God. That's such a good cowboy song. When he, is it a woman or is it a man? That doesn't usually refer to a cowboy, but how many times have you walked into a place with your spurs and they're like, oh, you gotta go ride the bull or something? No, man, I just got done riding.
Just pick these up at the store.
Yeah, but it's such a relic that some people are like, oh, okay, dude.
Yeah. Chill. No, there have been that's. And you and me discuss that a lot, but I always hate to say the cowboy culture, because I think it's too encompassing.
Yeah.
And by that,
if you're a cowboy in your heart, you're a cowboy.
Yeah. And that's something a lot of people just don't understand, because when you've done it for a living, it's like, I appreciate what you're saying and the values you think come from cowboy culture, but I will tell everybody I've worked on several large, reputable ranches in about 8 states. A lot of cowboys I've met are degenerate, outlaw sons of bitches.
Yeah.
They're good help. Everybody loves seeing them trot up the hill. You know what I
Yep.
mean? It's like, God, I'm glad he's here. They're not good citizens. I mean,
And there's some of them that just need to stay away from town when they're in the remuda, when they're holding roe deer, when they're blowing 2-1, like, yeah, like you and your kids kids will look up to them.
yeah,
When they go to town, they're probably going to end up in jail for something really
like
fucking
they're
stupid
going to make
and probably weird.
yeah, like and that's it. I've had trouble explaining that to people because like the John Wayne-esque, vision of the American cowboy of, patriotism and, goodwill to all men and always helping out a neighbor. And I'm like, man, I've known some really good cowboys that definitely put a brand on something they shouldn't have.
I saw some deal on Facebook here. It's been a while back, but I think it maybe even been on my page, but like it was like a comment on one of my posts and was like, what does a cowboy mean to you or whatever? And some lady was like, cowboy holds his hand over his heart for the national anthems. He loves Jesus and blah blah blah. And I was like,
what?
And I was like, have you ever met a working cowboy ever?
Yeah, and like also, what's a cowboy mean to you? It's like nothing you just listed had to do with punching.
Like nothing.
Put that on a resume.
Not a little bit. Told me what they can do with a cow.
It's like, how are you with sick calves? You know what I mean? I'm like,
Yeah.
like this doesn't mean anything to me.
Yeah, can you tell me when that cow is gonna like jump ship and run?
Yeah, like when is she checking out? You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's just weird because there's been other cultures that the kind of the commandeered for themselves, but I wouldn't say there's any that have been commandeered like the working cowboy has. There's
probably the mafia. That'd be about the only thing I can think of.
That could damn sure that could be in the running, yes. But just I had a girlfriend who back in the day, and she used to tell me, my daddy told me like, we were raised to believe like there's a spirit of the cowboy. And I was like, no. And I used to tell her like, it's not true. I was living in a bunkhouse in New Mexico at the time. And I was like, well, your spirit wouldn't get you in the cook shack here. You know what I mean? I was like, that's a lot of shit. Like, do you notice how like I do drugs and like, you know what I mean? Like, where does that into this?
I was in a bunkhouse in Big Sandy, Montana, and I was working with a guy, and I was as wet behind the ears as it comes. And this dude was like, I think he was 48, and he was fucking the shit out of an 18-year-old that would come up when he was working night cabin duty, and she drove 80 miles out to see him, and only thing I could figure is he had a giant dick because it was not. I mean, I guess there was about 30 miles of good road and about 50 miles of not great. And she still did it. And I was like, well, that guy must be doing something right because he was like a little round tubby fella. And you're like
pulling that shit around.
But he was Texas to the core. He let everybody know he was from Texas. And
yeah. We like to rep it.
Yeah, and I was like,
Montanans.
Yeah, and I was like, it was just that was my most cowboy moment. I mean, I was in a fucking bunkhouse in northern Montana by myself, and I was as me and my dog, and then on the next, the next headquarters over, it was TJ, and he was banging girls that were younger than me, and
right on.
And I was like, That's fucking cowboy shit. And I don't know if you're asking him if he's holding his hand over his heart during the national anthem. No, he's probably plowing a fat chick in the bathroom.
Yeah, like what? You know what I mean? When you're talking about like the most cowboy you've ever felt, that is fun. Like, I was trying to think of the most, cowboy I've ever felt. And I've had a few moments. One was pushing yearlings off of Sierra Grande in New Mexico when I was about 18, 17 or 18. It was kind of my first venture to a ranch on my own. That was I felt about 10 foot tall then. Jingling in horses in northern Arizona. I remember the sun was just about down, and I was watching all 65 head of this wagon remuda as we gathered them in, and you kind of had a moment where you're like, if this ain't cow punching, I'd like to see what it looks like, because it sure smells like punching cow. You know what I mean? Like this, this sure feels Western. And probably the other one was we had a shit ton of maverick cattle that had got away from guys through the years in the Bloody and Tonto Basin region of central Arizona. And I was tying one up to a tree so I could come back and get him tomorrow. And he had horns, and I'd bobbed his horns, and I'd already cut his nuts out because it was pretty cool that morning. And I walked over because I was heating a running iron. And I remember I had a moment standing over this little fire I'd made with a little running iron I'd put together in the shop. And I kind of looked around at the Verde River, rolling, and all the brush and the desert mountains up above me. And I was like, man, I've always been average help, but in this moment, like, I feel like in a way I haven't made it yet, but I can at least stand in the circle and drink beer with those guys. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's like, you're never there, but I think you do have moments where you kind of look around and you think about, like, shit, man, 10 years ago, there ain't no way I could have done this shit. You know what I mean? I'd have been just green gourd lost. And it's fun to kind of look back at those. It's a huge reason why a cowboy, I guess, is in a way, it's those moments of accomplishment when you finally get that, you finally get a Johnny Blocker to land that you've been fucking with on a dummy for the last 6 months, or, that your horse finally, you set him up and he drags his ass and you do a quick turnaround and you're like, God damn, that's pretty nice. You know what I mean? Like, that's some cool shit right there. Like, I think that's part of it, is it's not beating your chest of look at me, but it's just, look where I'm headed type stuff.
Yeah. I always liked like when I'd get some guys from a ranch outside there, and particularly when we were in doing that confined cow calf deal in Kansas.
Yeah.
And you'd have some cocky dude coming in from a ranch, and don't get me wrong, like, ranch cowboys typically are a lot better quality than feedlot cowboys. That's that.
I would say, like, on the average, you're probably right. Yeah.
Generally speaking, yes. But there was nothing better than they come in like feeling real high on themselves, and then you'd be holding something, and then you'd go in and sort something off and like rope them as you're sorting them off that they had already missed, and you're like, hey, this is what we're looking for over here. It's a whole different, and most of those guys would be like, oh, fuck, okay, that's what I'm looking at now. Like, but some of them would get real pissed, and a couple of them quit. And like, but also it's like, hey man, you're coming into my world. Like, when I'm going out there, I'll listen to you, because I'm not sure what exactly I'm looking at. It's not my territory.
I would tell every ranch cowboy that I've ever worked with, if you would do a little, it doesn't have to be forever, but if you would do a little stint in a feed yard,
you'll learn a lot of shit.
You learn a lot of shit you're not going to get exposed to outside. And I can tell you, my loop arsenal, as far as what I could throw when I got there and now what I can throw, it's a world of difference. And most of that, everyone talks about the, don't stir them up, that kind of shit. there's no better place to figure that out than in confinement of like,
Yeah.
he's, I don't love where he's standing, but if I press it anymore, I'm going to have 400 head of these little shits mobbing
Yep.
this table.
Yeah.
Um,
Ease him up to the bunk and try to get him going to your right.
Yeah, and just like I said, just I threw backhands were kind of a novelty for me at Brandon's and shit, just because I didn't usually need them outside on ranches unless it was like a sure enough foot rod or something. 90% of your shots you're going to get is stuff moving out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just how it is. It's usually bunch quitters. If it's a pink eye, if they're so blind they stand there, you probably fucked up and should have got there a week ago. You know what I mean?
Right.
The other side is if they're just blind in one eye, they're inclined to panic because they can't see shit out of this
Yep.
side of the head.
And they're just gonna fucking run.
They said, like, I don't know where I get it, but it can't be here. So, like, outside, the amount of loops I got to throw, if you could just run up and neck them, and then if you had a good hula hand to throw in there, you could get along. The feedlot is actually where I had to learn to get a little more creative and start getting comfortable throwing a little more rope. I mean, before I had never picked up a coil in a rope. Just didn't need it. You know what I mean? I had never been somewhere where I was like, man, I need to pick up a coil.
And it's awkward as shit that first time.
Oh my God, the coil slap, like I said. And once you figure it out though, it's something every outside guy should have the chance to do, because I know feedlots aren't sexy, but the undeniable truth of it is it's an aspect of the cow-calf deal. Number one, it's debatably where the money's made a lot of times on the cow-calf side of things. If you want to talk about seeing sick cattle and understanding the difference in that fucker's sick and that fucker's having a bad day, go ride through about 20,000 of them for about 2 years straight. Yeah. And you'll finally be able, and I know a lot of outside guys, and this isn't an insult, they're dog shit with sick calves.
They can't see shit.
What they can see, I've seen
they can see bad eyes way, way quicker than I can. But outside of that,
the thing with me with a lot of, and I was one of them. I mean, I'm man enough to say it was a shortcoming of mine outside. Either they were too far gone sick where I should have, 3 days previous would have made a world of difference if he'd have had a little, or you're roping a bunch of shit that, I've known guys on straight native born calves that they turned out on wheat. They're like, man, we doctored 30%. And you'll go out there and look and like, why? What are you seeing? Well, look at him. And you're like, yeah, he's hot. You know what I mean? It's like, why did you doctor him? They never looked if his hocks were popping or any, how has he been to water? How far is he from where you saw him yesterday?
Well, and also like walk him around, like make him trot 20 yards. Does he cough?
Yeah. Like I said, does that old white shit come blowing out of both nostrils? Yeah. The only way to get good at sick cattle is being them constantly. And a lot of outside cowboys I've seen were not very good sick cattle guys.
They can rope like a motherfucker, but they can't diagnose.
And dude, like you look at a bottle of Exceed or Draxon or what some of that shit cost. You get the doctor and shit that doesn't need it. That cost a damn fortune. It's something that you need to be good at.
And it also makes them sicker in the long run, because
absolutely
that antibiotic doesn't just kill the bad bugs, it kills all the bugs.
Yeah, it's a liquidation. You know what I mean? Like it's a liquidation cell, period. And also over doctoring has absolutely led to immunity in a lot of these viruses. Guys, you need,
like you're seeing a lot of cattle that just don't respond to Draxon anymore.
Anything to Draxon, Mycotil. Yeah. There's I know there's actually
they respond to vitamin C though.
There's actually a company in Canada right now running studies on basically vitamin drips and reintroduction of penicillin to a lot of these active bugs. And I know one of the guys involved, and he said the results are going to shock people. Said a lot of this, especially the fibrous type pneumonias, we're seeing a huge spike in that are typically deemed virtually incurable nowadays.
Yeah.
A lot of the fibrous is pretty much, that's a death sentence.
That's the shit that like seizes to the rib cage.
Exactly. It turns into like a yellow mucusy.
Yeah.
They literally,
Nasty.
your bones literally decompose. I mean, he
Nasty
said
shit.
some of the studies they're seeing on penicillin is going to make some people rethink exactly what some of that fibrous and shit is doing. And so it'll come out.
I bet you Merck has something to say about that.
Yeah. That's probably true.
I gotta take a leak, but let's call that good for the main episode. We'll do a little Patreon special here on the backside. But Zach, where do they find you at?
As far as
social media, no, not
just Facebook, Zachary Sargent,
Zachary Sargent.
Insta, I'm never on, and Twitter, I'm never on. So Facebook,
there you go.
Sargent.
So I got Cowpoke. That's gonna be my song that I'm gonna argue against. Yours is James McMurtry, Copper Canteen, right?
No, I'm gonna. You know what? Yeah, screw it. It's not really a cowboy song, but let's go with it.
All right, cool.
Yeah,
and find somebody to join your side. I'll find somebody to join my side. Derek Mott. I bet you I get Scott Hall to help moderate this contest, and then from there we'll take requests. So if you got requests, you think of the most cowboy song on earth, send it to either me or Zach, and we'll keep in touch. We'll make sure we'll narrow it down to some good topics.
Great.
Perfect. So, and if you want to hear the rest of this, patreon.com/burning daylight. But Zach, thanks for coming on. Always a fucking pleasure.
Anytime, dude.
All right. Move your ass. We're burning daylight.
Your eyes up in the morning, beneath the stars so bright. Pull your hat down, make sure your cinch is tight. Horses kinda snuffy, cold chill up your spine. We'll get your ass moving, son, we're burning daylight. Burning daylight. Burning daylight. In the saddle till the job's done right. Burning daylight. Well, life is just a gather, and you won't catch 'em all. But when you ride through the gate, make sure you sit up tall. I can see the horizon, it's looking pretty bright. Well, get your ass moving, son, we're burning daylight. Burning daylight. Burning daylight. In the saddle till the job's done right.